Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a major development. A massive explosion has struck the Kerch Bridge, also known as the Crimea Bridge, linking Russia to the annexed peninsula of Crimea. It's a dramatic moment in the conflict between Crimea and Russia, and I'll walk you through what we know, why it matters, and what could come next. Early on June 3, 2025, the bridge, one of the key logistics routes for Russia into Crimea, was hit by an underwater explosion carried out by the Security Service of Ukraine (SBU). The Ukrainian forces claim they used approximately 1,100 kilograms of explosives placed under the water near one of the bridge's concrete support piers. According to the SBU, the operation was months in the making, specifically aimed at damaging the underwater structural elements of the bridge. Russian sources acknowledged an explosion occurred, but claimed the bridge remained operational and undamaged. The bridge was closed for a short period, around 3 to 4 hours, for inspection and then reopened. Now, why is this explosion especially significant? First, the Crimea Bridge is critical for Russia's transport of both civilian supplies and military logistics into Crimea, which Russia controls following its annexation of Crimea in 2014. By striking this link underwater, Ukraine is attacking not just a physical target but a symbol of Russia's grip over Crimea. Analysts argue that even if the bridge doesn't collapse, damage to its substructure creates ongoing risks and forces Russian authorities to divert resources for security and repairs. Let's talk about how the attack likely unfolded. According to open-source reporting, the SBU may have deployed unmanned underwater vehicles, UUVs, or sea drones to place large explosive charges near the underwater support columns of the bridge. The 1,100 kilograms figure was cited in multiple reports. The goal was to damage the concrete pile bundles beneath the span to reduce structural integrity. On the morning of the strike, traffic was halted and a sudden explosion rocked the bridge structure, with video footage apparently showing a blast emerging from the water beneath the structure. From the Russian side, officials emphasized that while an explosion occurred, there was no significant visible damage and the bridge remained open. For example, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said, "There was an explosion, nothing was damaged. The bridge is working." That statement suggests that though the strike was bold, it may not have achieved full structural collapse, or that Russia is downplaying the damage for security and propaganda reasons. So what are the implications of this event? There are several layers. Logistics and military supply. If the bridge's structural integrity is compromised, even partly, Russia may have to slow or redirect supply routes into Crimea. That could create bottlenecks, reduce efficiency of troop movement or equipment transfer, and force increased security or repair operations. Over time, this degrades Russia's operational flexibility in the south. Symbolism and morale. The bridge is a prestige infrastructure project for Russia, linking mainland Russia with Crimea and showcased by President Vladimir Putin as a proof of Russian certainty in the region. Attacking it sends a message of vulnerability. From Ukraine's perspective, this is a psychological blow and strengthens Kiev's narrative of being able to strike deep into what Russia considered secure territory. Escalation risk. Strikes on such high-value infrastructure invite reprisals. Russia may respond with higher intensity attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure or intensify military operations in other theaters. Indeed, after earlier attacks on the bridge, Russian officials such as Dmitry Medvedev have warned that this is only the first episode of retaliation. Engineering resilience. The fact the bridge remains standing despite repeated attacks in 2022, 2023, and now 2025 illustrates how hard it is to destroy major infrastructure without sustained effort, huge resources, and prolonged assault. Experts note that modern bridges are overbuilt for the kind of shock damage typical in wartime. Let's step back and provide a quick timeline of major strikes on this bridge. In October 2022, a truck-borne explosion detonated on the road section of the bridge, causing two spans to collapse and damaging the railway span. In July 2023, two sea drones attacked, damaging a road span and injuring civilians. Russia reported damage and patched the span. Now in June 2025, the underwater explosive attack targeted the bridge's underwater supports, using approximately 1,100 kilograms explosives according to Ukraine's claim. So even though the bridge remains operational, each successive strike increases the pressure on Russia, raising maintenance burden, forcing security upgrades, increasing cost, and gradually degrading reliability. Another angle. How does this fit into the broader war dynamics? The strike took place within the context of a Ukrainian strategy reportedly dubbed Operation Spiderweb, that targets strategic Russian assets, airfields, logistics hubs, deep rear infrastructure. By going after what was considered a secure, heavily defended asset, Ukraine signals its willingness and capability to strike at long range and underwater. For Russia, it means rear area vulnerabilities and logistical links can't be taken for granted. What about the practical and humanitarian aspects? Any disruption of transport into Crimea has ripple effects: civilian supplies, evacuation options, economic connectivity, and local morale. For Russians in Crimea, seeing the bridge under threat could sow fear or reduce confidence in Moscow's ability to protect infrastructure. For Ukrainians, it's a boost in morale and a demonstration of resistance power. However, escalation is also dangerous. Russia may retaliate against civilian infrastructure in Ukraine, which could increase civilian suffering, spark refugee flows, and raise risks of miscalculations. Looking ahead, what might we see as next steps? Russia will likely conduct inspections and repairs of the bridge's underwater supports. That may require closing lanes, limiting weight of vehicles, or even suspending parts of traffic. Such disruptions add cost and degrade throughput. Russia may deploy additional security, underwater sensors, patrols, anti-drone, anti-UUV systems, increased helideck ship patrols, sealing off sections to civilian traffic at times, diverting heavy logistics to alternate routes, ferries, or alternate bridges. Ukraine might attempt follow-up strikes, perhaps targeting railway spans or surface traffic lanes, trying to widen the disruption. On the diplomatic and public relations front, both sides will spin the event, Russia emphasizing that the bridge remains unharmed, using it for propaganda that their infrastructure holds, Ukraine emphasizing the success and symbolic blow to Russia. Independent verification of damage may lag or be contested. There's a risk of the conflict escalating in response. Russia may increase missile and drone strikes against Ukrainian logistics, energy, or transport infrastructure. We may see increased Russian air and sea-based operations in the Black Sea region, and Ukrainian counter-strikes deeper into Russian territory. Finally, we should reflect on the longer-term strategic importance. The bridge was built as part of Russia's efforts to integrate Crimea, strengthen supply lines, and symbolize Moscow's permanence in the peninsula. But a fixed piece of infrastructure like this is vulnerable in a high-intensity war. It becomes a tempting target for asymmetric attacks. Over time, repeated attacks may force Russia to rethink reliance on fixed links and invest more heavily in redundancy, such as ferries, alternate routes, or bypass schemes, each costly and less efficient. It also underscores a broader pattern. In modern conflict, not just frontline battlefield encounters matter. The ability to strike logistics, supply lines, and infrastructure deep in enemy rear matters greatly. This explosion is one such example. In conclusion, this explosion at the Kerch-Crimea bridge is a bold act, with strategic, symbolic, and operational significance. While on the surface Russia claims the bridge is intact and functioning, the event nonetheless places additional strain on Russia's logistics, forces reconsideration of infrastructure security, and demonstrates Ukraine's evolving capabilities. For viewers and analysts alike, this is not just a headline, but part of a shifting pattern in the war. As always, the situation remains fluid. We'll be watching for more information on the extent of damage, repair efforts, shifts in Russian logistics routes, and any countermeasures or retaliatory strikes. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this useful, and I'll see you in the next update.